So welcome everybody to our keynote discussion with Chef José Andrés and also professor at GW, José Andrés. My name is Tara Scully. I am an assistant professor of biology and also the director of the Sustainability Academic Program. I've been teaching with José for the past 2 years. We've known each other for 3 years, but unbeknownst to you, José, I feel like we've been teaching alongside of each other since you brought your class in 2016 to GW. At the time, I was teaching nutrition, and it just so happened that your class was right before my class, and we had the same students. They would run from your class to my class, super excited about World on a Plate and what it meant to them, and a much more global perspective than my biology perspective on nutrition. So it was a really eye-opening moment to see these students electrified. I mean, really, really electrified. And that's what you did for our campus, was bring this issue of food that, you know, we rarely think about. We normally shove things into our mouths, you know, running from place to place. And you made the students stop and really think about what food means to people who don't have food, to the systems that provide us with food. And I think that now we can see that that's becoming clearly a global issue that's in a reckoning, mainly because of the pandemic, but it's now in the forefront of the news. And I think you've helped to bring it there. It's amazing to me that already as a famous chef, accomplished restaurateur and business person, that you went and added a new job to your list of jobs. And that was opening World Central Kitchen. And now even bringing another job into your life, and that's working on policy. So I wanted to start off this discussion with you and ask you, what motivates you to really, when you already have a full plate, and I'm pun intended, why would you go to this new arena of World Central Kitchen and then the policy avenue?
Well, thank you, Tara. I used to say that it's been an amazing experience being teaching with you, and obviously this class wouldn't be happening. It wasn't for people like you and many other professors before that really gave me the opportunity to join you, and you made me always look good, but the hard work has been done by you and others like professors like you that made it happen. So thank you for making me feel at home at George Washington University. Obviously, this question, probably I will have to go to the beginning of my life, but I'm not going to bother anybody. But I think it was moments that were important for me when I realized very early on that as a 24, 25 years old, a Spanish immigrant working in Washington, D.C., I began seeing in real time public policy unfold in front of me. And at times, myself being even an actor in the process without realizing. And what I've been trying to do is make sure that more people, like what happened to me, will have the same opportunity. That moment was when I joined in the early days, DC Central Kitchen. As many people know, one of my favorite NGOs, founded by Robert Egger over 35 years ago, with one very simple mission: to make sure that we will not waste food, but more important, because the conversation has been the wrong one, that we will never again waste the lives of people. So Robert gave opportunity to people to belong in the process. He allowed them to learn a new craft, cooking. Those homeless, those ex-convicts began being the ones learning a new profession, and in the process lead the volunteers. We all know what happened. We were feeding the hungry in Washington, D.C., at the same time that we were empowering people to learn a craft, finding them jobs in the community. In that DC Central Kitchen, I saw what was a very iconic moment, that was a Senate Hunger Caucus that happened right in the kitchen, away from the halls on the Hill. At the same time, President Clinton came, gave a speech, talked about the meaning of hunger and why we need to be fighting hunger in America. This had a very big influence on me in the way I saw leaders being hands-on, at least trying to address those issues. But I remember 1996 when Secretary Glickman himself was second time I meet him. I was 26. He came to Jaleo, my restaurant on 7th and E. And with the founder of This is Central Kitchen, Robert Egger, and one of the trucks, they came to my kitchen. They pick up a few boxes of fruits and vegetables that I was donating, and we put them in the back of a truck of This is Central Kitchen. Why is this moment important? Because what you saw, what I saw there in the making was policy in real life with boots on the ground. What Secretary Glickman was doing was the example of a bill that just passed a day before, which was the Good Samaritan bill. One bill that was trying to protect businesses and individuals from donating food to NGOs and others to being sued if they donated the food in goodwill and et cetera, et cetera. That moment was important for me because I understood the importance of policy, but with real effect, with boots on the ground. Obviously, it helped too that I realized in 96, 97, that the Missing Soldiers House office, that this was the home of Mrs. Clara Barton, the woman that single-handed put at her service her knowledge of nursing to make sure that she was bringing relief to the wounded soldiers during the Civil War, and the woman that single-handed created the American Red Cross. Things like these that are over 100 years ago, with things in real time I was able to see. But anyway, moments that I was surrounded by is what probably shaped in my brain one very simple thing, that we can all be saying things like, we must do better about how we pay employees. We must do better about how we address immigration, hunger, obesity. We must do better how we handle food deserts, how we should be using snaps, food stamps in a smarter way. All of that is very good, but if the only thing we do is talk, 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 and at the end, we don't reach the hill and start communicating the right ideas that actually are working in many parts of America and the world. And we let our leaders know so they can create a smarter policy. So we can, one problem at a time, find the right solution so food stops being a part of the problem, but becomes part of the solution. That's why I got very interested. And that's why I only do what I did when they told me when I became American. To be an American is not used to show up to vote the day that you are given that amazing honor to cast your vote for a leader, but is to be active every single day of your life for the betterment of your communities. I'm one more guy trying precisely to do that, but not only myself, but try to convince others that if they put their brains together, it's enough power in a room in this country, is enough brains to solve many of the problems we are facing, and where food should be, again, the solution.
So you bring up a very good point, and that's the issue of Americans being involved every day. And you get Americans involved, and actually citizens all across the globe involved every time there's a natural disaster, not national, or national disaster too, where you get the community involved in solving the problem of whatever that disaster is. And my question to you is, how do we get people to be more involved on a daily basis instead of just on the occasion when there is a national or natural disaster?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, quite frankly, I don't have the answer for every question, because let's face it, life is very complicated, and not everyone has time left or energy in their days to be there in their community every single day. Me, I've been very lucky. I created my company, allow me to say, today I'm leaving and I'm disappearing for, like what happened in Puerto Rico, for 90 days, to try to bring comfort and food to fellow Puerto Ricans. Not everybody does. But what I see is one thing. In general, people in America, people of the world, the empathy and the willingness to help that everybody has is huge. So what I do believe is we need to do is to have leaders that try to bring not our worst demons inside each of us, but that we must have leaders that bring our best angels out of us. Mm-hmm. And this, to me, I do believe is the most important thing. Every small gesture of empathy, filling up the car of an elderly, helping fill up the bags of the shopping of an elderly person we see in the parking of our local supermarket, showing up to volunteer to a food bank, sending a check of $1 or 10 because it's all you can afford, but that dollar is going to be very important for that NGO you're trying to help. Now, all those things is what at the end help us have this belief that together we can be achieving more. But I do believe we need to be looking out, because it's a lot of amazing moments of empathy and gestures that they go unnoticed. Mm-hmm. And when sometimes it seems that the world is falling apart, that America is breaking at its edges, actually take a look. Go and park in front of a hospital. You will see people arriving to get to get attention. Ambulances arriving, firefighters, a police car that is escorting somebody. The system, our cities, they fundamentally work. Now, we can just keep smacking down on the negatives, or we should try to start trying to improve on the things that they need improvement. I see the world as the glass of water is halfway full. I do believe that's the right attitude to have, but some of the biggest problems, Tara, we face in our communities, in America and in the world, some of the biggest problems, actually, they have very simple solutions. And I know it's easier to say it than to do it. But I sincerely believe that at times we overcomplicate some responses to some of the problems we face. If we have food deserts in America, and this is something like we should once and for all put an end. If food deserts is what keeps many families poor and many families hungry, because sometimes they come back to their community and they have to drive half an hour, 40 minutes for the nearest supermarket. They spend time on driving. They spend time on gas. We understand, everybody will agree on this consensus that food deserts go against the building of a true and working society, especially in the places we have food deserts where are poor communities, Latino communities, Black communities, poor American low-income family communities all across. So let's just stop having conference that we talk about ending food deserts. Let's bring the power of the federal government. Let's bring the Department of Housing. Let's bring the Department of USDA, and let's bring Treasury all together. Let's make sure that we pay 100% the opening of a market in a food desert. Let's make sure housing supports, and let's make sure USDA supports with the snaps or new things that we need to be creating to support that. Food deserts should be a problem of the past. So what we try to do with World Central Kitchen, and that's why I love to go often to hurricanes, to earthquakes, to fires, and join my teams, sometimes even we arrive before, is because I keep seeing that big problems, they can be overcome if there is a will. Because when there is a will, there is always a way. We all together, we can be fixing many of the problems we face. And when we think that nothing is happening, well, you should look at yourself at the mirror, because if something is not happening, it's because you are not being part of trying to be the solution.
Excellent. So that brings up one of the issues that we talked about in the class about World Central Kitchen and how it kind of skirts around the red tape of the government. But you not only skirt around the red tape of the US government, you skirt around any government that you encounter. And I think that's just amazing to me to see how, like, you are able to integrate and utilize and embrace every community that World Central Kitchen goes into. So can you talk about just like how that happens? Like what do you guys do that's different than any other type of aid organization?
Well, it's many good, amazing organizations around the world. I do believe we are in an era where the very big NGOs are going to have to become smaller. I see that there are NGOs that they become very specialized in one thing. And I see that now we are in the era of NGOs as startups, that they're created to solve very unique problems, highly specialized, and they are becoming highly successful. And I think this is very important. And I do believe that certain NGOs, they have gotten way too big, that then as big they are, sometimes it's different, a big for-profit company than a non-profit company. And that sometimes we see that there is a lag of responding to certain moments when they go out of the normal. What World Central Kitchen has specialized is that usually we say that we don't have a plan. What we have is a mission. Our mission is feed the hungry and bring water to the thirsty. And the teams know that. It's their Bible. They know it by heart. The organization empowers them to be successful with that very simple rule of engagement. Mm-hmm. This is the mission. Success means feeding and providing water and do whatever it takes in the emergency. So that means that clear mission and sometimes lacking a plan, where adaptation wins the day over the planning. Why? We've seen it in this pandemic. Mm-hmm. When you train your teams to follow a plan, chances are that things will never ever go as planned. Therefore, teams may freeze under emergencies. And if they freeze, means they don't respond. If they don't respond, means that people are not receiving what they need. In our case, I remember Bahamas. This didn't even happen 5 days before Dorian hit the Bahamas. Even we were already in the Bahamas when the hurricane became a category 5, and we saw that the hurricane wiped out islands like Abaco in the north of Nassau or Grand Bahama, plus many other cays. That moment, the plan we had was to open a kitchen in a hotel in Marsh Harbor, plus another kitchen in a hotel in the capital in Grand Bahamas. When the kitchen in Marsh Harbor was totally destroyed, I landed there with Sam Block, one of my good friends, one of the best guys, one of the guys that always lands usually first. And we landed by helicopter, and we realized that the destruction was such that we couldn't be using that kitchen anytime soon. We understood that we needed many more helicopters, and that the only option was to bring the food, cook in Nassau, in a big hotel, Atlantis, and that was the only way in the first days to provide food for everybody. We reached almost 70,000 meals a day in less than a week. Why we were successful? Because our mission still was the most important: feed the hungry and bring water to the thirsty. We were able to bring water. We were able to bring water treatment for salt water, for seawater, filters. We were able, obviously, to bring hot food, apples, fresh fruit. But then we realized that because we had the helicopters and we would land every day right next to the hospital in Marsh Harbor, we began doing medical evacuations. Because we were the first ones landing in many communities, the communities would tell us, Jose, can you get us chainsaws? Jose, can you get us X, Y, and Z's? At the end, I realized we are not an organization of cooks. We are an organization that we create infrastructure in terms of the delivery. At the end of the day, what we do is make sure we create almost like if it was a subway train station with many stops. And we stop every day. We never miss the beat. We show up day after day after day. In the process, we bring stability. In the process, we learn what happens in the community. In the process, every problem, little bit by little, is resolved. In the process, we take control by creating these maps that we know, not what anybody tell us, but what we see with boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. Why are we able to do what we do? Because we have a will. And I repeat, when there is a will, there is a way. And so far, we've been in very unique scenarios, from the explosion in Beirut to the volcano in Hawaii, to the fires in Australia, California, to the last two Hurricane 5 in Guatemala, Honduras, and Colombia. We show up, the mission is clear, the adaptation is in our bloodstream. More often than not, we become successful. Even I don't want to say we are super successful. My heart and the heart of my teams is always broken because it's always people suffering. It's always people that don't receive the aid they need. But we try to do the best we can to be there next to the people. And this brings a lot of comfort. And sometimes us being there next to the people, I think is one of the best assets of what we bring. Being next to the people, listening to them, and knowing that you will show up every day brings a kind of comfort to many communities that is difficult just to forget.
I would agree. And speaking about a will and a way, let's talk about this new administration and what you already mentioned a little bit, but what do you foresee as being important inroads related to food security issues or food insecurity issues, equity issues surrounding food? These are things that you tackle clearly on a daily basis, but we want to change policy. So where do you think this administration is going to be able to make those changes, and how?
Well, I think this administration obviously comes with a lot of challenges. Got huge backing of the American people. I think comes in the right moment. I mean, this pandemic has been hard on many, and I do believe we need to give value that President Biden early on, when he was running for president, even running just for being the candidate of the Democratic Party. But I remember I did a town hall with him where the main issue was food. Technically, if I'm right, it's the first time that the presidential candidate for the US White House has a town hall where the main theme and issue is food. Mm-hmm. This shows you already that seems food is going to be important. I remember Dr. Jill Biden that she tweeted, "Food is love." That I know is only phrases, but attitude is very important. Mm-hmm. We saw Vice President Harris going to soup kitchens like this is Central Kitchen, Martha's Table, and others already right before becoming Vice President and right after. So the attitude is there. Mm-hmm. We see that we have a USDA secretary that came from being ageist, and I think is the right guy, Secretary Bill Sack, for the job, because a lot of things have changed, and I think we need the experience of somebody that knows how government functions. I know the USDA in the Bill Sack times got, like always, politicians got some little hit about things that probably fall short. But I do believe Secretary Bill Sack knows very well the things that we need to do, especially after this last year on this pandemic. So where are we right now? We have we have in the White House people that like Ambassador Rice. Ambassador Rice, back in 2014, if I recall well, she gave an amazing speech in a conference in Chicago about food security. And Ambassador Rice has very clear understanding of the importance of food beyond fighting hunger and fighting nutrition and obesity, understanding that it's a national security issue. Even on her new role, now she's more dedicated specifically to America. But she brings this amazing knowledge of how food is important. Secretary Bill Sack himself, he had the program, Seeds for Peace in Afghanistan, to move farmers away from cultivating poppy seeds that will help the Taliban and try to bring new agriculture that will feed Afghans and will move them away from seeds that were the ones producing, if anything, more instability by supporting the wrong group. So it's a whole bunch of people in this administration that I do believe sincerely that they understand that food must be probably something like should be tackled beyond the USDA, mm-hmm. that should be beyond SNAPs, that should be part of Homeland Security. that I do believe Secretary Mayorkas will do a good job. That has to be immigration reform. That has to be through the Department of Health, making sure that we don't invest money, throw money at the problem, trying to fix Americans that are unhealthy, but invest money in making sure that Americans are healthy. Is urban housing development, is many of the departments that we never, is the Pentagon, is the Department of Defense, is many of the departments that traditionally we don't see that have any connection with food, but that hopefully this administration will see the power that have bring all of those issues together, and understanding that one department alone cannot fix many problems, but that if they work together, actually we have a chance. So I have high hopes for this administration. I'm gonna be constructive, critical, like I've been always, of the good things, supporting them, and of the things can be improved, saying, hey guys, we can do better. But I am hopeful that this administration is coming with the right attitude, with the right mentality. And obviously the class that we've been moving forward in George Washington University, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think it's been a very important one to shape ideas that now they are not so crazy and out of the box, but actually they one day can become one of the main ways of handle policy, where food is going to be very important conversation. We need to remember that in 1969 was the last time was a real food conference, bringing different parties to the table at the White House during Nixon times. Many great ideas came out of that 1969 conference, actually the year I was born. Since then, while it's been conference on food and nutrition at different levels, even when the White House of Obama, next to Mrs. Obama, they did push, thanks to Sam Kass, who was really like the food czar within the White House, to try to do things. I believe this moment that we raise up the level, that we put people with more power to make more effective decisions that can influence through policy and through making all the departments working together, more successes than probably the ones. It's a moment of being bold. It's a moment to recognize that hunger is a problem in America, and that hunger can be something of the past if everybody works together. I am hopeful that this administration will show a path forward that will create in the next 4 years and beyond real change. And this used to end. This is more than this administration. We've seen senators and congressmen on both sides of the party. Hunger is not, doesn't have a political party. I've been all across America in the last years, especially in this pandemic. More than 84% of Americans believe that no American should be hungry, and that more than 60% of Americans believe that the government should have more policies to make sure that food and hunger is not a problem. This is a bipartisan issue. I'm very happy that seems the FEED Act is already moving, where President Biden supported it through FEMA, and where we have senators and congressmen on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, supporting the FEED Act, supporting the Restaurant Act. If something can bring governments and politicians together, breaking bread, longer tables, no higher walls, that's food. So let's hope that food will remain, hopefully, a very important topic of Biden-Harris administration.
I totally agree. And I just want, before I ask you my final question, just open it up to questions in the chat. If anybody has a question, please go ahead and feel free to throw something in there. So my last question, of course, is kind of selfish, related to our students. And you mentioned World on a Plate. How do you think students should be going about engaging this topic? You know how much they love food issues and how they're invested in it. They just don't know how to get into it and really engage in some activities that will make them build their skills.
Well, let me tell you, Tara, now seems that everywhere I go, I always find George Washington, a student that has taken our class.
I know.
And that makes me feel really good, because the next question is, I always try to be funny and say, well, I'm sorry you wasted your time, but they are all always saying, you don't understand how much that class helped open our eyes in a way we never imagined. I'm so happy we're able to bring such a an amazing deepness of speakers, from generals to politicians, to nutritionists. It's very amazing group that when you put them all together, you see, this is very powerful. But I do believe, I said before, we need to be obviously bold. I know how George Washington as university, how much, and they ask every student to really be people of action and collaborate in the community. And I know not only for Washington or for America, but even around the world is very active, George Washington people doing good deeds. But what I will say is this, when there is something like really you feel you can bring your knowledge, you can bring power by you joining that organization, that team, or even, I will not tell you open use an NGO to anybody, because I think sometimes we have way too many NGOs. In Haiti, every day was more NGOs, and it's not like Haiti is any better today than was 10 years ago. More is not the answer. Sometimes maybe something is missing and you should take role and do this. But sometimes it's just coming to organization, bringing your know-how and support. And this goes from, one thing I want to be doing myself in the next 25 years, and I want to do it next year. Obviously, clean cooking is going to be very important in my personal life, and on top of World Central Kitchen. Even I have this amazing way to express myself through World Central Kitchen. I am one more guy. I just try to be one more guy. Still, I have things that I understand I'm not going to be able to do through World Central Kitchen, because if not, I'm going to turn crazy. Nate Mook, the amazing leader of World Central Kitchen and the organization. Maybe I'm going to have to do one thing, for example, is we have poor communities in DC that they don't have a decent restaurant where to go. Or we've seen American families in line for 3-4 hours to grab a box of food. Being poor in third world countries sometimes is described about the amount of people, the amount of time that people have to work to get a plate of food by walking far away, or in America is the same. We have families 3 hours waiting online for a box of food. This equals poverty. This equals hunger. We cannot waste the life of people. So I want to start doing restaurant in a poor community, in a low-income community, that brings dignity, that brings respect, where the families, the father and the mother, don't have to be waiting in line for 4 hours, that they can come and have a meal with their children. And if they can pay, they pay. And if they cannot pay, they're going to be having the meal. But then other people that can afford to pay can be there in that same restaurant, eating and being a paying customers. I do believe it's still, even when we fight hunger and we fight hunger issues, sometimes it's them versus us. It's look at how good we are feeding them, versus us trying to live in the same place and community where those people in need are. If we are not next to them, we will never able to be understanding the problems. So this is one thing I want to do. So to every student is, you think what you can do, that you can really have that type of impact. Obviously, I'm 51 now. I know how to open restaurants. I hope I'll be able to be successful on opening that. But I'm looking. I mean, maybe I will join others. Maybe I will not open it from scratch. But it's always a way to put yourself into this amazing chess of life, where the chess game already began. And you have to understand what piece you are, where do you fit in that chess game, and how you can start being used an agent of change.
And I think that's an important message, is you don't have to have everything. Like, you can't be everything to everyone. And so you just have to see where you can fit in. We heard this earlier on another panel, is most of us, I mean, and I'll ask you, like, did you imagine you'd be here at this point in your life, or that you would still be in the kitchen, cooking all the time?
Well, for the record, I cook all the time, Tara.
I know you do. I meant like
no, even in my house, like I am doing meetings, not right now, but sometimes I'm having meetings, and I know people are a little bit annoyed because I don't like to be seated, you know me.
Yeah.
And I'm cooking in the middle, or I'm cleaning my vegetables. You've seen me in the middle of because man, this allows us allows us to have this opportunity. Obviously, Tara, I left school when I was young. I really never graduated even from cooking school. But life has been a great place for me to learn. Quite frankly, the reason I do the class, like when we began doing the physics class at Harvard, which was cooking, physics through cooking, 11 years later, super successful undergrad class. This allows me obviously to share what I know, but this allows me to learn. The class, quite frankly, was very selfish. I'm sure I did it to share some of the ideas I had, but the ideas of other people that sometimes I felt they were voiceless, connected with all the professors in a university like yours that you know your themes better than anybody, with a lot of experience on the floor, on the ground, and then uniting everything and trying to bring it forward. For me, the class was a way to myself become smarter about the issues we are facing. So sometimes I feel guilty. I say, I'm not teaching anything. I'm just learning every day. And as a cook, I only realized one thing, that as older I grow, I went from being a cocky 24-year-old chef that thought that I knew everything there was to know about cooking. And now I am a no-hair 51-year-old that just realizes that knows nothing. Every time I buy a new old cookbook, every time I visit a brand new country, in the first 1 hour, I'm like, holy cow, I never heard about this. I never read about this. I never even imagined or saw it on Twitter or on Instagram. I am clueless. And actually, it's kind of a bad feeling. It's like, really? I didn't know about this. But then it's a great feeling. Why is it a great feeling? Because the world is full of something like it's waiting for you to discover it.
Yeah, that's how
and we all need to go with that mentality into the world. Don't be upset you didn't know about something. Be like a child, where actually the world is still showing you that has plenty to keep you alive and surprised. And so you realize that life is really worth living, and that only we need to be ready there to maximize the potential of learnership we have from each other and from life itself.
Thank you. So we do have a question in the chat that's an interesting perspective from Sarah Bergen. How do you think the proliferation of food television programs has helped or hurt nutrition education?
This is a great one. The issue is that when we talk about nutrition, everybody gets a boring nutrition, really. Nutrition itself, I don't think has done a lot. And even I will say many shows, and maybe I'm guilty myself, even overall, I think I behaved fairly well, that we had shows in the old days, Food Network, even somebody now is gonna bitch at me, that they've done this typical thing where it seems more butter and more fat and more foie gras was the cool thing. And that's fine for entertainment, but when you know health, it's becoming a pandemic itself. Obesity is a pandemic itself in America. I would say everybody's going to have to be slightly more careful. So I would say I'm expecting Food TV to be slightly more thoughtful about the messages they send, because if not, without realizing, they can be part of the problem. But we need to understand that there's some people that may be unhealthy because the food they eat, because they are poor. Even people that are obese, and you think, oh, they're poor and they're obese, give me a break, then they are not hungry. No, that's the lessons we need to be learning, that you can be poor, you can be obese, and you can be having terrible nutrition and your health be in a very bad shape because the bad quality of the food you are eating. Nonetheless, I think chefs, Food TV can be doing more. I'm very excited that today was announced that Michelle Obama has this new show. This show, I've been invited to the first and the 10th show. I'm so proud I'm going to be part of this show. March 16th is going to be on Netflix. And I'm in love because the beginning of Michelle Obama moving forward, Let's Move campaign, and bringing fruits and vegetables. And remember, she brought 1,000 chefs to the White House. I was one of them. This was very important, meaningful moment. Even we need to do more with that. But that Michelle Obama herself has this show where they're going to have these two individuals, these two puppets, Mochi, and somebody else. And they're going to go around the world talking about food, vegetables, fruits, better quality meals, how food can bring us together. This is the type of TV that even if a show done for children, I'm telling you, I'm going to watch it, not because I'm on the show, but I'm going to watch it because I do believe it's the right food TV that we need, that can be fun, can be entertaining, can be nutty, but that brings a little bit of common sense of telling Americans food should be the solution and not part of the problem.
Well, that's an amazing way to end our session. I can't even believe that it's been 45 minutes because it flew by. As usual, Jose, anytime I talk to you, I feel like it's a flash in, the pan, again, pun intended.
But you got pants in the back. So the phrase I love, Brillat Savarin, 1826, the French crazy philosopher, the future of the nations will depend in how they feed themselves. Mm-hmm. How we feel our body, but how we feel our soul. Let's make sure we feed each other with wisdom and with empathy, and then you'll see things will be better tomorrow.
Yes, that is very true. Thank you so much for all of your participation as usual at GW, and I'm very looking forward to next year for World Unapleed, talking about many innovative ways that we can run the class. Where it might be hybrid and we'll have people in class and then online. I can't even believe how successful it was this past semester. It was incredible. All the moments that we had with our students and speakers were very memorable. And I'm excited to see where we're going to go in the future with the class and with our students and food policy issues.